Fam, so I know this is the day off, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now that I want to talk about, and I am absolutely awful at editing videos and doing all of that, and I wanted to get this up, and it's not something I could pull off in a short, but I didn't want to. I basically didn't want to put this off, so here I am. There is a upswing on substances being sold in gas stations, right? E-Rock, good to see you. There are substances being sold in gas stations across the United States. Some states have already passed laws making this stuff a Schedule II narcotic, but some have not. The name of the drug is Tianopin, right? Tianopin is being sold under the name Zaza Red, Tiana Red, couple of different companies private labeling this stuff. I don't have to tell you where it's coming from, right? It's this stuff, normally when they sell things that are sort of quasi dope, right? Stuff that they sell at head shops or gas stations that mess with you a little bit. That's not what Tianopin is. This is a legitimate drug. I mean, a very legitimate drug. Back in the 1980s, France was the first country to start treating patients with Tianopin, and it was basically for depression, right? It was like an anti-anxiety or depression pill, like we would do an SSRI. Trouble is, people started to realize that if you took it in larger doses, that you could get high. So they clamped down. Keep in mind, when they first brought it out, you had to get a prescription for this. Anytime something has been on the market forever and it's already gone to a generic form, you know what I'm saying? So the name brand, you have it for 5-6 years, whatever, then it goes to generic. There's no way for anyone in the U.S. to then try to release that drug. So for that reason, Tianopin's never been written for prescriptions in the U.S. However, this prescription drug is now being sold in bottles this big, right, of capsules all over the place in gas stations and head shops. The scary thing is this. If you took Tianopin in anywhere in Europe, right, for anti-anxiety or depression or anything like that, you're looking at 12 and a half milligrams. That's what the capsule is, 12 and a half milligrams. Okay, the way that they're doing this now, they're recommending 60 to 120 times that dose. Hello? I mean, this is absolutely terrifying. And as happens all of the time, the states that already decided to get this stuff off the shelves, as soon as it was gone, something replaced it. And the stuff that replaced it is called Frenzy, spelled with a PH and a Z, P-H-R-E-N-Z-E. Frenzy is worse than Tianopin. The crazy thing is this, people. There's no regulation, right? None of this is being tested by anybody. It's a dietary supplement. So for that reason, it's getting put right on the shelves, and there's not one person taking a look at this stuff. And it's coming from the same place that all the fent is coming from. The crazy thing about this stuff is it works on the MU2 receptors, exactly the same way heroin does. I'm going to do a show about this because it's somewhat confusing, but a drug like Tianopin or a drug like heroin, it's not the drug that's really getting you high, right? What the drug is doing is tripping the receptor in the brain, and then the receptor floods you with all of the chemicals that make you high. Think about it like a faucet, right? It turns on the faucet. So this stuff does it exactly the same way heroin does. I mean, no difference at all. So for all intents and purposes, they're selling a version of heroin in gas stations. I do remember no dose. My generation was the no dose generation, I think. I remember, look, that was just, strong caffeine, right? It was supposed to be like 5 or 6 5 or 6 of these cups of coffee, right? It was just supposed to be a little bit of a hopped up way to keep you awake. But I remember kids in the elementary school or mid school, like 7th and 8th grade, that had to go to the hospital because they ate entire bottles of it. You know, we talked about this the other day when we did the TikTok thing, the fear of missing out, you know, the FOMO thing. Once people start to abuse this stuff and once people start to talk about it, the sad thing is there is an army of people out there, right? The reason that this had to go up on my day off is because twofold. Number one, I've already had 2 people on the boat who are asking for help to get off of this stuff. So as I started to do the research, I'm like, well, on the bright side, they're not kicking heroin, so it should be a little easier than that. No. This is as strong, if not stronger, a kick than heroin. The reason being, not only does it hit the MU receptor, but it blocks a different receptor. Not turns it on, but blocks it. And the combination of the two, you're going to go through the physical withdrawals exactly the same way. You're going to throw up. You're going to have a difficult time with your bowels and all of that stuff, right? Then, after you overcome that, 7-8 days in, the second kick is going to start hitting you. And very few people are successfully getting off this. And what's really chapping me is that there is an army of people out there putting up videos talking about how this is how you should get off heroin. This is how you should get off any drugs. Just get a hold of Tianopin. You're going to be set. People, you're safer doing the other drugs. Straight up. This stuff is coming in from a country that hates us. There is no regulation on it whatsoever. And God only knows what they're putting in this powder. Literally. God only knows. I mean, it could be fent. They could spike every one of these jugs with fent. What's to stop them? But there have been overdose deaths of this stuff. No lie, look it up. Right? So they're selling a form of heroin, for all intents and purposes, in gas stations and head shops. What the hell is wrong with our country? Oh, you know what? We'll keep you in our prayers, man. He says he's still got a fever coming from the surgery. Hang in there. Yeah, that's awful. That is absolutely awful. Hey, Noise Opera, I'm glad you're here, man. So, again, people, Zaza Red, Tiana Red, you know, as they're pulling this stuff off the shelf in all of the different states that have said, we're going to make this a Schedule 2. You hip to the concept of a Schedule 2 narcotic? That means that when a prescription is written for this substance, there are 2 sheets basically that get sent off. One goes to the federal government and one goes God only knows where, right? That's Schedule 2. Schedule 3, there's actually 3 of them that have to go, right? It's like DEA, you know, all these different places. And they just very tightly regulate the drugs. This Tianopin garbage is now a Schedule 2 narcotic almost everywhere. But there are still plenty of places that this stuff is on the shelf. And I'm not trying to... the last thing in the world I want to do is, you know, talk anyone into doing something stupid. But you can't really do a public service announcement like this without doing a public service announcement. This stuff is sold online so easily. And once again, you go to do research on this thing, and then you get an email a couple of hours later that says, how would you like to be a dealer of this in your country? For a little extra money, I can have this stuff on your doorstep, you know, in 72 hours, in 3-foot by 3-foot boxes of professionally sealed up capsules that can kill people. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. There needs to be some laws passed on this. There needs to be laws passed instead of trying to make a substance illegal, right? Alpha, hydroxy, whatever, right? They make that illegal. Then the chemist tweaks 2 things so that that substance is not the next substance, if you know what I'm saying, right? They just change a couple of molecules in the chain, and then all of a sudden they give it a new name and they can put it on the shelf. And they need to get hip, right? When ecstasy was made illegal, people went from making ecstasy to making Adam and Eve to making Scoop, all of these different designer drugs that were just a little bit off of MDMA, right? And every year or 2 years, they would write new laws making all of that stuff illegal. And finally, they said, you know what? You can't sell anything without a prescription if it's methyl-based in any way. Well, that made sense, right? They need to say, if it tickles the MU2 receptors, if it turns on the same receptor in your body that heroin does, it needs a prescription. I mean, it should be a very simple thing. I don't care what the recipe is. If the substance acts on the MU2 receptor, that would be But they got to do something about this, people, because once again, we're looking at the number of people in this country who are becoming enslaved by drugs coming from you know where. And that's exactly where this garbage is coming from. There are so many different versions of them sitting over. Is it like Kratom? It is in that Kratom does work on the MU receptor, but it is a partial agonist, right? So what that means is it'll turn on the faucet, but it won't turn on the faucet like a heroin would, right? And in order for it to do that, you would have to take just catastrophic amounts of it, right? And it sort of gets cost prohibitive for people to abuse it like that. I'm not saying it's not done. I know a guy here in town that he went to the same rehab that I did and had the most vicious kick trying to get off that stuff. It was awful watching him go through it. So those people that tell you that, you can't get addicted to that physically, it's just no truth to that. There's absolutely no truth to that. But this stuff is a little different in that it's more like a full-on agonist. It's like heroin would be, really. Not if you take 12.5 milligrams, which is what a prescription dose would be, but there are people doing this by the gram. They're going and buying a gram of this stuff once a day, but it's 25 or 30 bucks to get a gram. So, in the scheme of things, this is a very cheap buzz if the way you have been doing it is street opiates. And the great thing for people is they can just walk into a gas station. They don't have to worry about, any of the, cops or any of the other things. Needs to be illegal ASAP. I agree with you 100%. And the only way that's going to happen is if people like us call up politicians and give them hell, for real. Because no matter how many videos get made, it's honestly, people, there's something going on with the big red beast. I've said from Jump Street that we're already at war, right? We've been at war for a very long time. In World War II, we lost just under 260,000 Americans, right? In Vietnam, we lost just under 60,000 Americans. Those are two wars that are fairly famous in this country. Over 1 million people now have died from overdoses in our country. Now, if you just take that with fent, you're still looking at more than World War II and Vietnam combined. But we're write-offs, right? They don't care. They're junkies, right? They chose this life. That's on them, blah, blah, blah. Truthfully, that's sadly the way that this works out. So, get on the horn, people. Start writing letters, emailing. You can look up your senators, and there is an email page, a way to get at them through email very, very easily. You could type up one letter and send it to all 50 states, and it's worth the time. It really is. Cousin found dead at 27 in his room. Fent OD. Jeff, I'm so sorry. Man, I am so sorry. And a casualty of war. I can't stress that enough. Right? They know what this stuff is doing. They're not making it weaker. They're making it stronger. And, you can buy an ounce of fent, pure, from the big red beast in the East. And they will send that to you, $375, somewhere in there. How are you going to cut that? 100% pure fent to make it so it's not deadly. We're not talking about chemists. We're talking about guys who were like me, strung out as all get out on dope. And they see this as a way to come up, make a little money so they're not spending as much. And they're in their basement, right, doing this stuff. If you think that average fent, the kind that isn't going to kill you, runs less than 10%. That's street fent. So if it's above 10%, you're getting into that this is going to kill you range. If they can keep it below 10%, that's in the you're probably not going to OD range. Not necessarily, but a lot less likely to OD. How the hell are you going to cut that? So you take an ounce and you got to get that down to 10%. So what are you going to put on there? Think of how much cut you got to put in and then try to get that amount to spread out through the entire thing. There are going to be hot zones where there's a ton of dope, and there's going to be a bunch of places where there's no dope and there's nothing but cut. There's no way to make that happen. And, they know what they're doing. This stuff is being made in a country that the government knows everything, right? They have facial recognition software that gives you a score, based on how much you buck against society and against the government. They're watching every move that everybody makes. You expect me to believe that they don't know that this stuff is getting shipped to our country? I mean, there's no way. This is, as far as they're concerned, this is the start of World War III without having to fire a shot. If something were to break off and we had to go to a selective service like we did in World War II, right, or Vietnam, the vast majority of these people, that's the age group, right? 18 to 50, below the age of 50. This is the number one cause of death. Jeff, I'm so sorry, man. I really am so sorry. And it really is a plague in parts of Canada. Up in Vancouver. That's probably one of the epicenters of opiates anywhere on the planet, and it has been for a good long time. At one time I had a business and we did a lot of stuff in Canada, and sadly I used to buy dope every time I went there. But it's just always been one of those places where a ton of dope ends up at the port. So I'm not going to run this all night, people. I would love to. I really would. Unfortunately, this came up when the second person emailed me and said, I'm trying to get off a drug you probably haven't heard of, right? And I was like, what's the drug called? And he was like, Zaza. I said, yeah, no, I know what it is. I just finished researching it for someone else on the boat. So, we're not huge people. We're 3,000 people. If 2 people pop up in 1 week to talk to me about a drug I haven't heard of, it's time we all found out about it. If you got kids, if you got anybody, they're not checking IDs to buy this stuff. Right? Your 14-year-old could go in and buy this stuff. It's over the counter. It's a supplement. Such bull crap. But that's how they're selling it, as a supplement. And for that reason, they're not making any claims. They're not saying anything about it. And if you don't make claims and you don't say anything about it, the Food and Drug Administration ain't taking a look at it in any way, shape, or form. So for all we know, it's, 2% fent, right? It would explain why this is so freaking addicting. Because the people that are trying to get off this are suffering. Do a little research, man. Do a deep dive. You could do it on the big red button, or you could do it on Google, but just ZA, right? You don't have to know Tiananmen. You can just put in ZA or ZA red, right? And it's going to give you all of the information. It's going to, and you can see some videos of people on it, and it's, the slurred speech, all of the stuff that you get on heroin that really, you can't understand anything anyone is saying. The affectations are identical. If you had said to me that person in there is on heroin, I would have gone, of course they are. You didn't need to tell me that. If you had said that person is high on something they bought at a gas station, I would have been scared. Scared enough to come on and do a show on a Thursday night. All right, people. I love you. I'm going to be, we'll be back tomorrow night. There will be a cat in this basket, and my bobbleheaded partner will be here with me. And we got a good one tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow's show, for real. This is a wildly educational show tomorrow, and it's, I think it's really, really an important one. Charlie Murphy says, leave a comment after the show. You know something, people? I don't ever do this on the regular show. 20% of you are not subscribed to the Lifeboat. And my guess is it's people that are getting high, right? Because when you actually subscribe here, you're really saying you want to get off dope. If you just stop by and listen to us a little bit, you're kind of putting your toe in the water, but you're not really thinking about, you're not committed. You hit subscribe and you're committed. People, if you're watching this, hit the subscribe button. The farther we push this out, the more people we can help. Straight up. That's just the bottom line. So, Zenwen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. So, hit the like button, right? Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notification, because every once in a while we jump on to do... Daniel, you know what? I love you, man. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. All of you people, And I'll tell you, no lie, Mark and I pull our hair out, figuratively speaking, on Wednesdays and Thursdays. It's great to have the time off. It lets us prepare for shows in the week and do all kinds of stuff like that. But we miss you guys. I mean, straight up, this is, it really is very much become a family, and it's Yeah, we missed you on the 2 days off. So we will see you tomorrow. Noise Opera, absolutely, I will see you. And to everyone else, thank you so much. You know what? If you can hit the like button, do that. If you can leave a comment, do that. You know, we comment back. It tells the big red button to push us a little further. And you know the greatest thing? One of the people that I'm working with and is really making an effort, by the way, to get off of this stuff. I said, who told you about the lifeboat? And he said, you just popped up on my feed. That's awesome. That really is the dream. SG, good to see you. That's the dream. The dream is that our partner, the big red button, that's why we fought so hard to get monetized as quick as we did. Not to get rich people, but to have the big red button have a vested interest in shoving us down people's throats. That's what it boils down to. All right, I really am going to go now. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. I'll be back tomorrow night. Love y'all. Be good.